Hello everyone! Today I will turn the design we made in the previous video into an illustration. So in case you haven't seen the first video, be sure to watch that one before this. Alright, so to begin I looked up some references of the pull art in Genshin, since this is what the illustration is supposed to resemble. I will be using design B for Dream, which is the last one we made in the first video. In the sketches you see here, I was trying to figure out a pose that shows off his axe, as well as his cape, in motion. The illustration is supposed to make him look powerful and mysterious, since you're supposed to want to pull for this character. The pose I picked was quite unusual for Genshin, since he has his back turned to the viewer. The only other characters who do this are Albedo, Rosaria, and Dainsleif, who are all super mysterious and cold, which is fitting for Dream. In the original design, Dream had both of his eyes covered, however I decided to show one of them, since usually only enemies have both of their eyes covered. This is because eyes evoke sympathy, and we don't necessarily want to feel sympathetic for killing these enemies. Besides the character itself, the pull art in Genshin usually features one of the character's skills. And of course that involves the character's element, which I had yet to decide. In the end, I chose Cryo, since Dream comes off as very cold and ice is also a symbol of loneliness. Dream is keeping everyone below him and not letting anyone close in fear of losing control. He could possibly even be an Archon, a god in Genshin lore, or ascend to be one. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, so let me know in the comments. During the process of this whole project, I realized a couple of things about the Genshin art style. First of all, Genshin uses really thin lines. Thinner than the ones in my artwork because my canvas size wasn't big enough. And part of the lines are colored to look even more subtle. The artists somehow managed to make the artworks look super impressive, even though they're actually fairly simple, often cel-shaded. And just a random side note, you can actually see that there's different artists making these, since there's subtle differences in line quality and shading. I don't really have anything more to say about the lines, since it's literally just lines, so I'll leave you to enjoy the process. It's time to move on to the colors. I color picked in the beginning to get a general feel of what the Genshin color schemes are like, before I went to adjust them. Do you remember how I said that one of the most recognizable features about Dream is the color green? I decided it wouldn't really work that well for my concept, so I almost cut it completely. I went with more of a cold and blue color scheme to go with the whole ice thing. It ended up reminding me a bit of the water tribes in The Last Airbender. Honestly, figuring out a good color scheme was really hard. After a while of suffering, I pasted in some of the Genshin character art to help me. I did these fun little color strips to show the color schemes in their simplest form. The colors were so well picked that you were still easily able to make out the character from just the colors. Based on those, I made my own color blob, and that honestly made everything so much easier. I added some additional patterns without lines. Genshin puts in so much detail with their characters, yet they still don't look crowded. I really love the Genshin character designs if you haven't noticed already. Now that the flat colors were done, I made myself tackle the thing that I was a bit scared of, the eyes. If you see my other artworks, you notice that I don't really draw backgrounds that much, so I'm obviously not very practiced with it. Luckily, I had some really good references. Thank you, MiHoYo. The background behind that though is actually the background you get when you pull for a character. At the beginning I used a random screenshot and just drew over the part where the character was, but later on I decided to be perfectionistic and pasted in several screenshots to fuse together. I didn't want anyone to be able to tell that the background was actually fake. And to be fair, me and my friends already fooled some people with it, so it worked. The eyes actually turned out to look super satisfying, and I was surprised with how well I did. I guess this goes to show how important references are. If you don't use them, then I honestly can't help you. And then it was already time for the shading. I know I said the shading wasn't that complicated, but you will still miss a lot if you don't look up close. I know I definitely missed a lot during the making of this video. A couple of days after recording this, I actually sat down and made a copy of the Dainsleif character art. Here's a little disclaimer. Copying artworks can actually be a really good way to learn. However, copying stuff and posting it on social media, claiming that it's your own original work, is theft. And I don't think there's many people out there who like art thefts. If I were to do this again, I would definitely put a lot more work into the shading to really pay attention to the small details and the subtle shifts in color. Apparently I forgot to record the final touch-ups. I basically colored in some of the lines and put blur beneath everything, since this is a very common feature in Genshin. And of course I also signed it. And after all that, I was finally done. The entire process probably took me around 20 hours, although the illustration was probably only 8. So that's it. Consider leaving a like if you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments what you would have done differently. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content. I have been considering making character design analyses for the actual characters in Genshin, so stay tuned!